This right here is Jacob Trouba, a man who plays like it's 1990 in the modern game. And even though I love physicality, I truly do, this man constantly rides the line between a clean hit and holy sh**. He almost ended a man's career with a flying elbow. In Game 2 of the Rangers-Canes series, we would see overtime after a 3-3 tie. Nichas goes alone off the rush, and because he's alone, Trouba makes a smart decision to take the body, as he has two guys back if his hit is unsuccessful. But Nichas, feeling the vibrations of the Trouba train, stops up to avoid the hit, where Trouba comes off the top rope like he's a WWE superstar,
going right through him. Oh, he's good.
Flying through the air with his elbow sticking out. Look at this still frame. Like, is this not just one of the most ridiculous things you have ever seen? How does one end up at this angle in the air? It's hilarious. But what isn't hilarious is just how dangerous this play was. If this elbow connects, this would have been a horrible outcome for Nichas. And this right here is what's so frustrating about Jacob Trouba. Again, this was a very smart play. In Game 1 of the Oilers Canucks series, we would see a very similar play. Zach Hyman comes in alone, Vancouver has 4 guys back, and instead of taking the body, where Myers would have eliminated a scoring chance. Worst case Ontario, Hyman goes around him, but there's 3 other guys who can cover. But
Shifting gears,
as Trouba has the right idea, but for whatever reason, the man's just dirty. Fast forward to Game 3 of the Rangers-Canes series. To start the first period, Kuznetsov walks in alone, where
Kuznetsov over the shot, he scores!
But wait, if you watch the replay again, Trouba makes the right decision for taking the body, but he just misses another flying elbow to the chin. Do you have to call Trouba for attempting an elbow? The NHL has an entire section of the rulebook dedicated to this exact play, attempt to injure or match penalty, as it specifically lists elbowing for this exact scenario. And this may seem ridiculous, but Trouba has a suspension history, including a 2-game suspension this season for, you guessed it, elbowing. But here's the thing, I am all for playoff hockey, not getting the same calls as the regular season. I am all in for more physicality and chippiness being allowed in the playoffs. But as the old adage goes, you call none of it or you call all of it, as this year's playoffs has been one of the most inconsistent messes I have ever seen. Whether it was Quinn Hughes getting high-sticked by McDavid, where he was leaking all over the ice, only to be told that not only was there no penalty, but he can't be on the ice until his face is repaired. Brad Marchand getting suckered by Sam Bennett, which could easily cement this series for Florida. And yes, most fans like seeing Brad Marchand getting suckered, I get it, but come on. But what's even worse is that not only should have this been a penalty if not a suspension, but Sam Bennett would score arguably the most controversial play of this year's postseason, because after Florida was down by a goal in the third, in the dying seconds of a power play, the Panthers would cycle the puck, and Sam Bennett would score on a rebound.
Puck's still alive, kicked out, and they score!
But hold on, Sam Bennett would shove Charlie Coyle on top of Swayman. Swayman can't get over to make the save, and boom, it's a good goal, where Florida would win by a single goal. As this right here is a prime example on how the refs can single-handedly determine the outcome of a game. Because in the Tampa-Florida series, we would see 2 goals waved off on plays that had way less goalie interference. On the first play, I get it, Bob could have covered the puck, but on the second play,
Sergachev towards the net, and he scores!
Cirelli spins off a check in front of the net. Bob gets screened and Tampa scores. So okay, he does touch the blue paint, but we have seen many calls now where players touch the blue paint, but because they don't physically interfere, the goal is allowed. I just don't get it, man. Let's even take a look at Game 3 between the Canucks and Oilers. On this play, yes, we see a very obvious cross-check. And let's be honest, this is a penalty 9 times out of 10 in the regular season. But on the ensuing power play, we would see an amazing passing play by the Canucks. At this point, Elias Lindholm is the bumper, as his goal is to get into open space so that Quinn Hughes and JT Miller can set up a give-and-go system. This play makes the Oilers defense scramble, the Canucks get it back to Hughes, Lindholm then cuts down the center lane which pushes back the Oilers defenseman. Miller now has a runway to take a shot, he fakes the shot, gets it to Lindholm,
Looks in front! Scores!
where he scores the game-winning goal off a penalty that probably shouldn't get called in the playoffs. Now, as a Canucks fan, I'm not gonna lie, I'm all over this. Just keep doing it to Darnell Nurse. I'm for it. But as a hockey fan, I want consistency. Because in this game, we also saw Vancouver harassing the Oilers' top guns with cross-checks. What is the line here? Were they making up for the horrible game 2? Does Draisaitl need to go down for this to get called? As this frustration would also lead to the Connor McDavid incident, where the news just broke that Soucy would receive a 1-game suspension, which I agree with. Was it bad luck and horrible timing? Yes. Did Soucy mean to do it? No. But he does have to have control over his stick. But here's the absurd part. Zach Hyman did the exact same thing to Zadorov. If that's a suspension, is this not also a suspension? Come on? Refs and officials have been a complete mess. It's that simple. In today's game, the power play and special teams in general, it's the difference between winning a cup and getting sent home packing. Edmonton's power play is clicking at a 50% rate. So them having missed calls or getting a power play on a soft play is monumental to who wins the series. But I will say, NHL hockey is the fastest sport in the world. You have guys like Connor McDavid and McKinnon buzzing up and down the ice at Mach speed, where at the same time little scrums are happening simultaneously. Missed calls are going to happen. So unless the NHL dedicates a video review ref, the only answer to me is that the NHL dedicates a video room to being the final decision on every play, but at the same time that really slows down the pace of a game, because if not, missed calls or bad calls will happen. But here's the absurd part. When refs begin to make soft calls, it speaks volume to the fact that they're trying to control and contain a game. Maybe throughout the first 2 periods, they let some plays slide. In the 3rd period, they might call that same play a penalty to keep the game from boiling over. And I say this with confidence, because after ending this season with so many amazing fights, haymakers being thrown like it's the 1980s, this NHL playoffs has seen the lowest fighting total in decades, if not NHL history. In fact, throughout the first 57 games of this postseason, we have seen 4 fights, so the chances of a fight is 7%, which tells me that the refs have been successful in preventing games from blowing up into mayhem. Okay, fair, so sounds good from face value. However, we have learned that this right here is a massive mistake. Even though it sounds good from face value, it is counterintuitive to playoff hockey. When you are missing calls, making soft calls, calling questionable penalties that end up deciding entire games or series, forgetting the rulebook, it leads to pent-up frustration. And when this frustration boils over, when star players are being targeted, we will without a doubt see horrible incidents. Back in 2004, we would see the infamous Steve Moore versus the Vancouver Canucks saga, because during a heated matchup, Steve Moore would pull off a Trouba on Marcus Naslund, but he would connect. I can't show these clips without being blacklisted, but the man would connect with a WWE off the top rope elbow. Naslund goes down, there's no penalty or suspension, and as a result, in the next matchup, we would see one of the dirtiest plays in NHL history, where Todd Bertuzzi would get sued, he would lose millions of dollars, on top of being banned from the NHL. Bad officiating can lead to really bad incidents. If you're consistent, players know what to expect. If you call this, but not this, players will get frustrated, as none of this even comes close to the Montreal Canadiens Ottawa Senators series we saw back in 2013. Today's video is sponsored by Bet99, made by Canadians for Canadians. You guys want the dog back? And today's responsible sports betting advice revolves around individual bets. Because I have a buddy that I met back in university. When he was 18, he went up to the oil rigs, he grinded, he saved his money. Within a couple years, he bought a house. He then got a good job and now has 2 houses that are both dual suited. But here's the thing, my buddy, let's just call him Zach, he loves to sports bet. But he places bets for like 20, 50 cents, maybe $1 on a good day. So what I'm trying to say is you can still have a lot of fun with sports betting without having to risk any form of income. As again, I like to play a game where I start with a very small amount and see how high I can get it. And today's pick for tomorrow's game is Jake Ottinger over 27.5 saves. I'm expecting McKinnon, Makar, Rantanen to go out swinging. Click my link down below, download the Bet99 app or use the browser, and you'll receive upwards of $1,500 of your deposit matched in bets. You must be 19 plus to play. This offer is not available in the US or Ontario. And follow my good friend by sports betting responsibly. And in game 2, we would see the first incident. Condro was driving to the net. He would get tied up with a Montreal defenseman. resulting in Price being clipped on the flyby. And accidental or not, Carey Price was the backbone of this team, so Montreal was not going to take this lightly. And well, it would happen again.
Slot, and Carey Price got up, was hurt, had a discussion as the puck was going up the ice with Wes McCauley.
As Turris was driving to the net, he would clip Carey Price. And keep in mind, during this era, Carey Price was constantly being ran over. Whether it was Chris Kreider, Rick Nash that same season,
It's blocked in front and down goes Price in a heap.
Cam Jansen. And I'm not saying they were specifically targeting Price, but it does seem like the team knew that he was the backbone of the Habs structure, and they definitely weren't trying very hard to avoid it. But as a result, after the multiple incidents in Game 2, we would see complete and utter chaos in Game 3. To start the game, we would see PK Subban attempt a big hit on Condra.
Through the middle, Condra along the boards, slipped away from the hit. Right off the
But Condra gets his hands up and cross-checks PK Subban down to the ice. And what do you know? A blatant miscall against a star player. And a few minutes later, the Senators would go on a 5-on-3 power play. In a situation where Montreal should have been coming off a power play, this frustration would result in Ottawa scoring the opening goal.
Now winds up, they got it in there, Price scored!
This game would erupt into complete and utter chaos. Not only did we see 8 fights, 4 game misconducts, but I kid you not, due to the frustration of poor reffing and inconsistency, due to star players being targeted in this series, this game would see a grand total of 236 penalty minutes. You heard that right. This one game had 236 penalty minutes. Just recently, Game 3 of the Canucks Oilers series, which saw 10 penalties and 8 power plays, would amass a grand total of 53 penalty minutes. This right here is the danger of trying to control and contain a game, because when the game is moving so fast, it is impossible to properly contain a game, which results in missed calls, blowing up into player frustration. So with that being said, what is the worst call you've seen so far this playoffs? Or better yet, what is the worst call you have ever seen? Thank you to Bet99 for sponsoring today's video. Click the link down below to receive a special offer. And as always, thanks for watching.